Everyone is moving from law of attraction to law of assumption. And if you're wondering what the law of assumption is and how you can use it to manifest anything that you want, then keep on watching, because in today's video, I'm going to give you a law of assumption 101. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel where we come together to help you go after your dreams and design a life that you love. And what can be a better way to design the life you desire than knowing how you can manifest each and every dream of yours, regardless of how unachievable, unattainable, and impossible it seems in the moment. Law of assumption, if I put it in really simple words, basically says that you create your reality by the assumptions you hold in your mind. This was a big aha moment for me when I first read about it. Just look back at your life and you'll see that everything that has happened was a reflection of your assumptions. If you've always believed that money is hard to earn, you'd have come across situations that prove that, and all those situations cause that assumption to become more concrete. Another common assumption is that the more you work, the more you earn. Another one is that you have to work like crazy and hustle hard and sacrifice all other areas of your life to be successful. Honestly, that is the biggest lie, and all you have to sacrifice to be successful in any area of your life is your comfort zone. But that's a topic for another video. A really awful assumption that I had when I was in school was that I'm not a good-looking person, and trust me when I say this, everyone around me was telling me this. My assumption was so concrete that I was even bullied for looking hideous. And if you want to know the whole story, you can check out this video next. Now, all your assumptions do not have to be bad. You have good assumptions as well. For example, when I moved to Bangalore, I lived with this amazing girl, the only roommate I've ever had. She had this assumption that everyone she befriends is worthy of her trust and they would never break her trust. And guess what? None of her friends has ever broken her trust, like ever. Another one of my friends, he believes that in this day and age, earning money is very easy. And money is always flowing into his life, like left, right, and center. And I'm like, how? How? So, depending upon different areas of your life, you have different assumptions, and everything that is happening in every area of your life is simply a reflection of what assumptions you have. And this is so liberating. I mean, when I first learned about this, which is quite recently, I felt so powerful, because if my reality is a reflection of my assumptions, then I just need to change my assumptions to change my reality. And this is why it is so liberating, because the power to create my reality is in my hands. I am not doomed because there is a God sitting up in the sky and causing all these negative events in my life to make me suffer. No, the power is not outside of me, it is inside of me. Speaking of God, I don't want to get into religious aspects, but I do want to mention that I am a big believer in God. But instead of believing that God is just some guy sitting up in the sky or living in some statue or sculpture, yes, I do pray, I do go to temples and absolutely love it, and I also worship idols. But as I said, I do not want to get into the religious aspects because that is not what this video is about. What I find important to mention, however, is that I believe that God is inside of us. I don't believe that God is separate from me. He is inside me. He's inside you. He's inside everyone. God is experiencing life through all of us. And all that God wants for us is for us to be happy, because we are His children. And all that a parent wants is for his child to be happy. So I also don't believe that there is a black boat hanging somewhere in the sky with my name on it, where it's written, okay, this, and this are the sufferings that Ruchika has to go through. No, I just don't believe that. And if there is at all a black boat somewhere up there, I know that all that's written there is that I have to be happy and enjoy life. And it's the same for all of us. So, since God is inside of us and not outside, we have the power to create our reality. Anyway, let's come back to the law of assumption. So now we know that everything that we are experiencing in our life is a result of our assumptions. But how do we use the law of assumption to change our reality? Through thoughts. Every single assumption, every single belief starts with a thought. You think a thought and then you keep thinking it over and over again, which ultimately gets accepted by your subconscious mind and becomes a belief or an assumption. Your thoughts are the most powerful thing because they create your reality. I mean, just think about it. every single man-made object that exists was once just a thought in someone's mind. It did not exist in the physical world, it was just in the imagination and mind of one person. And if that person would have told anyone about it, no one would have believed it. But this person had this thought and believed that it could become a reality, and guess what? It became a reality. Now I want to talk about some teachings of Neville Goddard, who taught about the law of assumption, and the law of assumption community majorly follows his teachings. And if you don't know him, I highly suggest that you Google him and listen to his lectures. Neville talked about 3 major concepts to use the law of assumption to manifest your desires: living in the wish fulfilled, to persist, and self-concept. Let's start with living in the wish fulfilled. In one of his lectures in July 1951 at Los Angeles, Neville said, "We have only to concentrate on the state desired to mentally see it. But to give reality to it so that it will become an objective fact, we must focus our attention upon the desired state until it has all the sensory vividness and feeling of reality. When, through concentrated attention, our desire appears to possess the distinctness and feeling of reality, when the form of thought is as vivid as the form of nature, we have given it the right to become a visible fact in our lives." So, what Neville is saying here is that the only thing that we have to do is to see the desired state in our mind. When I say desired state, it simply means seeing yourself with your desire already fulfilled. And that is your desired state, right? So if you want $1 million, your desired state is in the process of earning it. It is you already having $1 million. Now, with concentrated attention, or by repeatedly seeing it in our mind, there will come a time when in your mind you will accept that what you want is already yours, it has already happened, and that is when it becomes a visible fact in our lives. That is when it manifests. So when law of assumption coaches say that you have to live in the wish fulfilled, it simply means that you have to convince yourself, that you have to convince your mind that what you desire is already yours. Another thing Neville said about this is the assumption of the wish fulfilled should make you see the world mentally as you would physically were your assumption a physical fact. So all that you need to do is live as though your wish is already fulfilled in your mind. You have to do nothing in the physical world. So if you want $1 million and right now you're broke, you don't have to go around shopping stuff that you can't afford. I mean, it's obvious. If you're broke, you can't go and buy yourself an Audi, but in your mind, you can create the assumption that you already have $1 million, and that is all that you have to do. Another term which is quite famous in the law of assumption community is to persist. And to explain this, I will again quote Neville. He said, "Define your highest ideal and concentrate your attention upon this ideal until you identify yourself with it. Assume the feeling of being it, the feeling that would be yours were you embodying it in your world. This assumption, though now denied by your senses, if persisted in, will become a fact in your world." So, what Neville is basically saying here is that you first decide what you want, and then you concentrate your attention on it until you identify yourself with it, until you create the assumption that it is already yours, until you believe it is already done, you already have it, and until you can feel the feeling that you would have if you had your desire. For example, if I lost all this excess weight, I would walk into a room 10 times more confident than I do right now. I know, it's stupid to link your confidence with your weight, but let's be real, guys. The way that you look, your physical appearance can affect your confidence. If you're not confident in the way that you look, you're not going to show up in the world as your most confident self. Now that I've said it out loud, I feel like this is one of my assumptions that needs to change. Anyway, we'll work on it. The point is that the next time I walk into a room full of people, I should feel as confident as I would if I did not have all this excess weight. And if we keep doing that, if we keep believing in our assumption, regardless of what we are seeing in the physical world, regardless of what our senses are showing us, the assumption in our mind would have to become a reality in our physical world. This is why all the law of assumption coaches say that circumstances don't matter. What you perceive with your senses don't matter. So if you can keep believing in your assumption and ignore what your five senses are telling you, if you can persist in your assumption, if you can persist in knowing that what you want is already yours, then what you have in your mind has to manifest. It has to become a fact in your world. Okay? Okay. Now, the third thing that Neville mentioned is this. All changes of concepts of self result in a changed relationship to the world. The concepts of self, the concept you have in your mind about yourself, the assumptions that you have in your mind about yourself cause a change in the physical world around you, because what you think to be true about yourself is what people are going to reflect back. Neville also said, I wish to stress the importance of a real transformation of self, not merely a slight alteration of circumstances which, in a matter of moments, will permit us to slip back into the old dissatisfied man. So your new belief about yourself should become an assumption, and it should not stay on the surface level. You should become that person and you should act out of that assumption. If it is only on the surface level, then ultimately after a while, after your initial motivation withers out, you'll go back to your old assumptions about yourself. You'll go back to your old self-concept. So persist in your new self-concept, because everyone is you pushed out. It's another famous term used by the law of assumption coaches. Everyone is you pushed out. What you believe about yourself is what people are going to reflect back to you. For example, I have always had this assumption that I make friends easily. And this is so true. Anyone I meet and talk to becomes my friend. Anywhere I go, I make friends. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I was going somewhere and I was famished. So I went to McDonald's and I made a friend there. Even when I don't go with the intention of making friends, I end up making friends anyway. Now, here's an interesting assumption that I had. Back in college, due to my insecurities about the way that I looked, I started believing that this particular group of friends that I had, they don't want to be friends with me anymore. And guess what? That is exactly what happened. And I was so bothered by it that I could not see that my other assumption, that I make friends easily, was working for me. Except for this particular group, I was making friends everywhere. In my class, outside of my class, seniors, juniors, in my college bus. I have made so many amazing friends who are still my friends and care about me so much. But at the time, I could not see it because I was stupid. But hey, that's how we learn, right? Through such experiences. Honestly, learning about the law of assumption has turned on so many light bulbs in my mind. I mean, I can look back and see why my life turned out the way it did. And I feel so relieved that now I know how I can change things. And the purpose of making this video today is to help you see why things happen the way they did in your life, and that you hold the key and the power to create the life of your dreams. Now, for someone like me who likes to learn the science behind everything and whose logical mind keeps interfering, I have found some amazing scientific evidences in quantum physics for the law of assumption. And also there are many different techniques that are used by people that are taught by the law of assumption coaches. And if you want me to talk about the science and these techniques, then make sure to press this button to subscribe to my channel. And while you're waiting for the next video, you can check these out in the meantime. I'll see you all very soon. Until then, keep loving, keep dreaming. This is Ruchika Srivastava signing off.